7:01 on my, 7:02. So we'll call to order Zoning Board of Review, Town of North Smithfield, and today is April 8th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mr. Najarian?
Here.
Mr. Marcantonio? Gail Burlinghoff?
Here.
Mr. Gill?
Here.
And Mr. Savini?
Here.
Okay, Ms. Benoit is absent, and Mr. Gill will be sitting in as a voting member. And Mr. Mostyn is absent, so Mr. Savini will be sitting in as a voting member.
I didn't make him Italian.
Okay, thank you. Mike might, I think he had mentioned he had a flight and so he may come, but he had indicated that it's likely that he won't get here. So if he comes, then we'll make an adjustment, but only if we haven't started the case. Item 3 is disclosure of no compensation or pension credits received by board members who are all appointed by the town council. Item 4 is disclosure and notice. Zoning Board of Review members shall disclose any ex parte communications about any contested or material adjudicatory facts or opinions concerning the merits of any application before the Zoning Board of Review. Item 5. Oh, and I should just note again for the new members that we mentioned it briefly, but for item 4, that should have also been covered in the ethics seminar. And that one statement is probably the most significant, impactful statement to any member when you have a temptation to either go beyond the boundaries or talk to people outside of your lane. So has consequence. So all members, but most especially the new ones, should make sure that they understand it completely. And if for some reason you weren't able to, we can defer to council if you need a better explanation than the verbiage. So minutes, I think we got them today.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I would like to vote to postpone the approval of the minutes since they were sent late. I know she sent them at 1 p.m. I only received it at 4.
Okay.
And I didn't get out of work till later, so.
You haven't had a chance to read it?
No.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Gail was not at that meeting. Ms. Burlinghoff was not at that
So
meeting.
I wouldn't even have to vote on
so it
that
doesn't
one.
really, yeah, it's,
Okay.
although there are a few, yeah. That's why we don't want her to leave.
Yeah.
So, there are a few minor that I noticed that I think we can approve, but maybe just make some corrections. On the second page, after you note what was entered into evidence, the third paragraph, you put in parentheses, it gets a little muddied as the water flows down the river. I was just kind of using an example, so I don't know that anybody retrospectively would understand or what that means.
Okay.
I think it can be stricken.
Take that out?
Yeah, because it's not, the relevance of whatever I was referring to is mentioned prior.
Well, you did say it.
But I did say it. So you could keep it if you want, but but the minutes
No, I'll
are
take
not
it out.
verbatim. The minutes are not verbatim. They are a summary of the essence of what was discussed, so. The next item, item 10, I think you just make the grammatical, the is put in, should be are put in. Item 10, yeah, it says no matter how many is put in, it should be no matter however many are put in. And then in item 12, the next paragraph, where it references 6.19, the second reference, it says your legal address prior to the rewrite of 6.9 was legal. I think we should substitute was exempt, because that was the issue, is that the property was exempt prior to the rewriting of 6.9.
Where is that one?
The second to the last paragraph, the large paragraph where it
Yeah.
says item 12.
Okay.
Look for the 6.19, you reference it twice, about 3 sentences down.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. I think everything else, oh, the only other one I noticed, just for clarity, is that on page 3, about halfway down, when you're referring to ZBR, hopefully a permit was pulled.
Yes,
So at the end, it should say violation of DEM and could even be federal regulations, so that it actually defines what the word federal was referencing. I think that's, I didn't see anything else. Did anybody have any other corrections or modifications? If not, you all set with that,
okay.
Vivian?
Yes.
Can we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion, Mr. Marcantonio, second. One of you gentlemen?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Mr. Savigny. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that's approved. Item 6 was, we had continued ZBR 2402, which was the application for the special use permit for 44 Railroad Avenue. As the office emailed to you later, late this afternoon, but I had received it prior. We received a letter on April 2nd addressed to the chair, myself, and it just noted, quote, on behalf of our client, M&M Transport Services, we are withdrawing the application for variance with the Zoning Board of Review for the 44 Railroad Street project, and will be filing with the Planning Board. And that was written by that gentleman, Damian Dimitruk, from Coneco, who came in front of us at the last meeting. Item 6 is satisfied. There's nothing to discuss there. And I guess to clarify for the record, the withdrawal would mean that resubmittal would be in fact the first submittal. We will only introduce into evidence what is resubmitted with if there is a new application.
Okay.
We won't carry over. Is that correct?
Once the application's withdrawn, it's withdrawn.
It's
You'd
withdrawn.
have to apply anew.
Yeah.
So,
So everything would be considered new.
Yes.
Should I, Council, should I mention that issue to the board in case they're quite curious?
you could mention it. I don't know the answer to it, but you could mention it.
No, I know you don't, but I don't want to leave it hanging because I would think some of them would be curious enough to ask. So I approached council just before the meeting, and I also approached the zoner who happened to be at a Hallowell meeting with me with regard to the withdrawal of this application and the special use permit that's unique, was unique with the 44 Railroad in so much as they needed and had to ask the board to override an existing decision of the zoning board from '94. So what I said to the planner was, I said, can you check with council? Because my intuitive thought would be that you don't have jurisdiction there. They have jurisdiction in everything else. They could grant all the dimensional variances if they're required. They can grant the special use permit for the 6.19, but I didn't think, without council's investigation, that they would have the authority to overrule an existing zoning board decision. So if anyone was curious, I did pass it, then come back to us for that matter and that matter only. But we'll see what council says.
But again, I mean, it's a great after that at all. It may be with the submission of this application that any prior relief becomes null and void. It could be just the opposite of that effect. I don't know. We'd have to research it. And with the changes in the recent zoning law, there may be no direct precedent in Rhode Island. We may have to look to other jurisdictions. So I'd rather have a conversation with David. I just became aware of it 10 minutes ago when you told me, and I don't know the answer. I'd have to spend some time researching it, just so you know. So.
We'll just keep everybody, we'll know the answer, yeah. So we'll move on to item 7. And that's the ZBR 25. So what we'll do is, let's enter into evidence, everything that was submitted, and that will, refer to discussion. So P1 would be the application itself, and ZDR 25-01 for today's date. Special use permit is the standard application, which includes the appendix D for special use permit. So that's P1. P2 would be the 200-foot abutters list, dated February 27th, West Smithfield, prepared by CAI Technologies. P3 would be the warranty deed, it's noted as being received by North Smithfield on February 16th, 2017. P4 will do the radius map, the 200-foot radius map. There is no gate that I see, but it just shows that it's generated for 100 Medley Road. You can see all the abutting properties and all the streets. That's cool. P5 we'll call the plan, the drawings. And there's 16 sheets. They're labeled PV1 through PV16. Zeichen Solar prepared it. It's dated 3/3 of 25. That's P6 would be structural. That's S1, 2, 3, on the fourth page, which is the stakeout plan. This is Solar Foundations USA out of Newcastle, Delaware. That was drawing. It's dated 6/28 of 24, and it's stamped by registered DE Civil. Stated by registration number 188. Section P7 will be a cluster of photographs of residents. Pictures that appear to be of all of the elevations. So that well,
Can you hear me? On. Okay, great. Good evening. Thanks for taking the time. My name is Brad Camille. I am the lead project manager and co-founder of Isaacson Solar. I'm also a proud North Smithfield resident. I'm here to represent Javen and Priyanka Patel for their ground-mounted solar project. What we're proposing today is an installation of a ground-mounted solar system. It's considered small-scale in nature. It's roughly 600 to 630 square feet. It's 30 panels. It's 6 panels wide by 5 panels high. we are proposing this to have a leading edge of 6 feet, so slightly higher than how I stand here today. I wish I was 6 feet, but it's a little higher than me. 20-degree slope, so on the rear side of this, we anticipate the final north-facing side of this ground mount to be about 12 and a half feet. This array, when it's operational and producing energy, is expected to make about $4,500 worth of electricity every year, which is slightly more, maybe about 10% more than what our homeowners have consumed in the last 12 months. So that's enough to give them all of their electricity needs. It's also enough to not have to worry about electricity bills in the future if everything stays the same. We are going to be mounting this using a helical pile structure. So there's not any excessive excavation that's needed. We're not doing any like concrete piles or deep excavation. These are galvanized steel helical ground screws that are basically going to be piled into the ground. There's 8 of them. We prefer this method because it doesn't typically have any negative impacts to the watershed or runoff or that kind of thing. One thing I will say is at 6 feet, the main, I guess, function of this outside of producing energy for the homeowners is to have a functional space. We believe in not just like sacrificing land over the next 25 to 40 years. They also are going to use this for storage and even have an area to recreate underneath. We plan on putting crushed stone down, so we are going to scalp maybe 6 to 8 inches of soil and put down crushed stone so that it's underneath. And again, it's 6 feet high with about a rear height of 12 feet, helical pile screws. There's going to be a mast that's roughly 8 to 10 feet, and that's where the electrical conduit is going to flow from those panels encased in PVC. There'll be a shutoff at that ground-mounted location. That PVC will enter the ground, and we are going to excavate trenching from that location to the main home to tie in directly to their main electrical panel. And that is the extent of the excavation. The only shutoff on the outside at this array, it's important to note, there's no equipment that will be there other than this one shutoff. So all of the solar equipment, the inverters, if you're familiar, all that's going to be mounted at the house, not at this ground-mounted location. I think it is important to call out the fact that we are hopeful to not have to install a fence here. I know that is a requirement in our bylaws. With the height that it's at, 6 feet, we're hopeful that we can put a steel wire mesh underneath this array that is preventing any kind of grabbing hazard that may be required for the thought process of needing a fence. We've had very, very good success using this mesh. We have precedent using it in other towns in the area like Cumberland, Smithfield, Lincoln, Burrowville. Again, at 6 feet to 12 feet, it's above even a grabbable height once it reaches above 8 feet. I think that pretty well surmises what we're going to do. I'm open for questions and happy to discuss if you guys do have any questions.
Can you show us,
Yeah,
as it relates to the criteria for the permit,
sure.
access? I mean, I've driven by the property, I understand that the house is significantly up. Is that the driveway or is that standing street?
It's a driveway. It's a long driveway. I believe it's a shared driveway for a period of it, right? And then it transitions into their sole driveway, and then you can see that turnaround, which is right in front of their property. The actual ground-mounted array is going to be roughly 75 feet to the east of the northeast corner of the home.
Where is that? Right there? You show it on the drawing, do you not? Or
It's on the drawing. Yeah, it should be on sheet number PV2.
do you have that?
Yeah.
We have it. Do you have that?
I have it here.
Yeah. No, I mean, is it up there?
This is just a GIS.
Oh, you just have that? Oh, okay, that's-
Yeah, yeah. Appreciate the assistance. Yeah.
Now, using that, can you show us where the abutters are? Is there a line of sight?
The main line of sight to this ground mount would be to the rear of the property. So directly north of that north boundary line, above here, that property and 286 would have a direct line of sight to this ground-mounted array. The dimensions are going to be roughly 34 feet by 18 feet. So, you know, if you can, it's probably about the distance from where I'm standing here to that far wall would be the length, maybe a little bit shorter than that. Yeah, sure.
Which way are the arrays pointing?
So
In consideration to the neighbor?
To the neighbors, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. So the neighbor's going to be looking at the backside of this ground mount. So it's not, the neighbors are not going to be seeing the actual solar panels are all black. So they're not going to be looking at that black side. They're going to be looking at the other side of them, which is a white back sheet. And so they will see kind of the underside of that ground mount. I do have a couple of pictures with me today that I could provide as well that aren't in that application packet that show examples of what this would look like. The homeowners have expressed a willingness to plant some vegetation behind there, some arborvitaes, you know, along. There are none right now. There is none right now. It is essentially an open field back there.
We have pictures, right? Do you have the pictures with you that were
Yeah,
submitted?
it should be on, I think it was
Which picture, what page would it be?
the last attachment that you have of around, was showing the stakeout photos. Gail has it there in front of her. That is, you can see there's 4 sticks in the ground there that is showing the 4 corners of the array perimeter.
Okay,
And that is the proposed location.
that's this one? Or this one?
That one there.
What's the other one, just the farm, I mean, a garden?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have trees in the back?
We do have we have some vegetation cover. It's not, you know, I wouldn't say it's a wide
Well, we
open
can
field.
look
There are
because
some
it's-
trees to the northwest side of the array.
Yeah, it says the tall arborvitae.
Yeah, there's some vegetation right to the north of that boundary line, at 286. You know, it's not a direct shot, I would say, but I guess it's all in the
And
beholder.
as it relates to setbacks on your PV2,
Yes. 42 feet from the rear setback, or the eastern rear setback, about 90 feet from the northern one, and 104 from the southern side setback. So I believe we're within the setback requirements.
yeah, because for the zoning official, this is considered an accessory as a 10-foot setback. Yeah, okay. And how close would you approximate, did you say how close the nearest house is?
The nearest house is our homeowners here, is about
No, I mean,
73
abutting
feet.
property.
I don't have that information with me today.
Okay. And where would it be there? Is that, if you can look at the map or the overlay?
It's in that opening right to the eastern side of that tree there.
Looks like a barn.
Just to the eastern side.
Okay.
Yep, right around there.
Is that the one that looks like a barn? Looks like a barn. Is that the neighbor?
That's the neighbor's
Okay.
property. So I believe that is this house, actually.
Okay.
But it's important to note that there,
Sorry. Yeah, okay, forgive me.
So the barn would be that, okay?
Yes, sorry.
but it's also important to note for the record that
Yep.
there's nothing in the ordinance that requires a specific distance from a given property for an accessory use. If this was a full commercial ground mounted,
Yeah.
it'd be a different story.
Completely.
We're going to have to go through all this during the deliberation, but lighting, given that the hardware won't be with the array,
Yep.
is there a reason to have, other than some incidental minor, or do you intend to have any lighting at the
Yeah.
array?
Yeah, we intend to not have any lighting at
Yep.
this array.
Because the technician, if and when a technician comes, they're going to the house.
Correct.
And, okay, because we've had other applicants where the hardware is mounted near the meter socket on the house.
Correct.
Either inside or outside.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Egress and ingress to the array relative to the fire department if they needed to respond. It's
Yep.
hard to interpret that, but if you look at your other,
Yeah, if you look at sheet PV2, I think that gives a pretty good idea.
so that's level, that's just grass.
It is. It's completely level. There's not a whole lot of slope there. We have to, the structural attachment, solar foundations is basically the skeleton installation crew that are going to come in and do those helical piles for us.
Yep.
They need to bring some equipment back there.
Yep.
They have a very large truck that I would say, that trailer is probably the width of an engine. It's like worst case scenario. Like they definitely have access here.
Yeah. Okay.
Both sides of the house too provide plenty of access to go either way.
Okay. Any other questions for maybe you need to elaborate on something you said.
Sure.
You mentioned fencing. Now, buffering is one of the criteria for the special use permit, but we also have requirements for fencing in the ordinance.
Correct.
The fencing is also applicable to accessory use, correct? The way I read it.
I believe it's part of the solar ordinance.
Even for the accessory use, it's
Correct.
required. So, the only thing that we can say to you is that we can't issue a variance even if you wanted to, because we have no paperwork. You didn't apply for a variance.
Okay.
If you sit down with the zoning official, if your application is approved and you go to pull your permit, if you are not in compliance, then he has one of two choices. He has some discretion with these new laws where he can use discretion, or you would have to come back to us for a variance
Okay.
if you're saying that you do not want to comply with the ordinance. But that's not something that we would or could do now because you didn't formally ask for it.
Okay.
And if you wanted then to say to him that you were going to provide a landscape plan for the arborvitae in lieu of the fence, then you can discuss that. If you're granted the permit and you go to apply, again, you can, or we can also put the arborvitae conceivably, we could put, if we could put it in the motion, and if the motion passes, we can make sure that that is in there, whereby you're going to put an line of arborvitae to obstruct the view of the nearest
Sure.
abutting property.
Sure.
So that's something we can do as part of our decision, but if you want to eliminate a fence,
Yeah.
you would have to come back to us because we don't have that authority as we sit here today,
So-
because you didn't ask for it.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is we need to apply for that variance to then come to
If
another
you,
meeting.
yeah,
If
you go
Leo,
to the inspector, if you're granted this use permit, the next step, of course, like you're used to, is you go to him.
Yep.
You show him compliance to all the conditions of the ordinance. If he agrees, if he notes that you're not showing a fence, then you have that conversation with him and he'll take the necessary action.
Okay.
So,
no problem.
but I don't want you to walk away from here with the
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that we heard it and we didn't do anything, so therefore we said yes.
No.
Okay?
That's why I
Alright.
brought it up. I want to make sure that
Yeah,
we're.
no, we'd
on the
rather
same
it
page.
be, that the easiest way to deal with it is if everyone is honest and on the table.
Of course.
Any other questions for the representative? I'm sorry. No? Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, great.
With that, do we have a motion to close that part of the meeting? Applicant's presentation.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, second?
I'll second that.
Who wants it? Joey, you can have it. Mr. Savigny has it. We'll open and close public comment. Not seeing anyone here. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Public comment is opened and closed all at the same time. Now, what's that?
Yeah, this is why I asked how far off is the nearest house, is because I see a lot of trees already.
Yeah, but we don't have that. We have to speak into the mic.
View is an important thing, that's why.
No, I know, but we can't, we,
Maybe one may not need that if you go and read it.
well, but they don't have that information. And there is nothing in the ordinance that says you must be X from a given house.
That helps you make the decision on views.
No, I get it, but if we don't have the information, we have to go without it,
That's
so,
what I asked.
yeah. And he didn't have it, so. So we'll go through, there's findings of facts that you're familiar with in section 9.2. That the criteria in order to grant or deny a special use permit. So section 9.2, item 1 is finding of facts were supported by the testimony and evidence presented at the public hearing as follows. Item 1, ingress and egress to the property and proposed structures thereon with particular reference to fire or catastrophe. And I guess if we reference, if you reference P5, the sheet PV2, we do see that clearly there would be the ability, and if you look at P7, the grade is flat and level, and unobstructed for the most part, such that it would appear that emergency vehicles could access the array if there was either a fire or, quote, catastrophe. Any additions to that? Okay. Item 2, off-street parking and loading areas where required with particular attention to the items in item 1 above, and the economic, noise, glare, or odor effects on adjoining properties and properties in general in the district. As usual with applicants of this nature, the off-street parking and loading is not relevant. It just doesn't exist as a criteria, even as it relates to egress and ingress, because there is nothing to, it just doesn't apply. Economic, noise, glare, or odor. We know that the noise really is of no real consequence. We've, on multiple occasions, seen the criteria for the decibel levels that these units release, and it's really nowhere near any noise ordinance or even annoyance. Glare appears to be addressed by facing the active part of the receptor part of the panel, the black part, if you will, facing the residence, and the representative has indicated that the back of the structure is white. So also note on the S drawings, which is P6, it shows you the framing and the height of the array, the 102 inches to the high rail, and then 2 feet, 24 inches to the low. He did note the helical piles, which is a very limited and minimal disruption of the existing soil. It's a glorified corkscrew, if you will. Odor effects are of no consequence.
I just want to point out that there was a typo on that structural submittal, and that's why I made it a point to note that the leading edge is actually not 2 feet. The leading edge is actually 6 feet.
6 feet, okay.
I have the correct structural drawing, but we have a copy for each of you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I knew I heard 6, but I would, yeah, okay, thank you. So it is, the point he was making during the presentation is that it's higher than most, if you will. Okay. The only thing that I'm thinking is that, as I noted, they did mention the fence requirements, and we don't have the authority to address that because it wasn't specifically asked, because that would be a variance. So we talked about that. If we were concerned about proximity of an abutting property or a line of sight, given the height of the array, we could put in a condition that, a line of arborvitae be placed in coordination with the zoning official, since the applicant referenced that, it would appear that they would not be off, that they would be receptive to that. So when we make a motion, members, if you want to insert that be a requirement, then feel free to do that. And that would address any and all glare issues, because it would be on the side facing the abutters, and that's how that could be dealt with. A part of that also was that if they didn't do that, I was thinking of putting the fabric on the fence, but the fence is gonna be lower than the top of the units. So it really serves, a 6-foot fence doesn't serve any purpose, because,
Is there any reason for that?
what?
That they have to have it that high?
Well, we closed, can't talk to him anymore, because we closed that, so.
Well, in the drawings, it has the mesh.
Yep.
And that mesh was only 2 feet.
Where's that?
I was the.
Well, we can't, I'll come to you if I need you, but technically you're, what page?
2Z15.
Oh, it's the last second, okay. Yep, oh, yeah, that,
See,
yeah.
there's 24 inch, but if you're saying that the height is 6 feet, where are you putting?
I believe the mesh is gonna run across the top. It's gonna run
Just the
across
top part?
Right, the sides will be open, it's just gonna go across the top so nobody can touch the bottom of the panels.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to get into that, because that is being submitted in lieu of a fence.
Okay.
And, yeah, but I understand, but they can put it on if they want. It has no bearing on us. We don't care. But if you're using that as a premise to eliminate a fence, then there's no reason for us to discuss it, because that's for the zoning official and the building inspector to deal with. Whether it's good or bad, it's not relevant. It's, at this point, because it's not part of the requirement. If they want to add it, they're more than happy to add it, but it's there, you're not going to get something in lieu of.
It was interesting where it was.
Exactly. So that's item 2. Item 3 is refuse and service areas. As with most solar applications, this really is not applicable, because the service area is the driveway. Item 4, utilities with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. Again, that would be the due diligence of the installer, working with National Grid to ensure, and since this is accessory and the power is intended to stay on site, there's been very little interface with the power company, and if there is, it's fairly routine. Item 5 is the screening and the buffering. I mean, screening and buffering were referenced to type, dimension, and character. I should probably, that was paraphrased, I should probably go to the actual, the wording. Where is it? That's section 9, right? Yeah. Yeah, well, I have it right. Item 5, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimension, and character. It's a little bit ambiguous as to what that means, but that could mean exactly the arborvitae. If we think that we're concerned about the line of sight for the abutter, then we can insert the requirement that the arborvitae be tall enough to obstruct the highest point of the assembly.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna work with their neighbors.
But we can put it in the decision. Item 6, signs, if any, and proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility, and there really isn't, there won't be any signage other than what's required by code, and that would be critical. We don't have any issue with what's required by code. Glare is not relevant based on the orientation and whatever screening that's going to occur. Traffic is not relevant. The economic effect is, you can go in both. It's a very subjective discussion of And it's so subjective that it's usually not applicable because it's not a massive ground and solar installation. It's something that if 300 people drove by the house, 300 people wouldn't know that there was anything there. So the economic impact would be incidental at best. Required, item 7 is required yards and other open space. There's plenty of land there. It's really not all of the setbacks clearly are met. Otherwise, they would have had to come for a variance. We know that the accessory setback is the 10 feet, not the structure. So that's really not an issue. Item 8 is general compatibility with adjacent properties and other property in the district. That's always again, a subjective analysis. General compatibility, clearly, yeah, a ground-mounted accessory solar array will make it a little bit less compatible, but the term says general compatibility, and something that's really not visible and would probably be barely visible to the one abutter. And we should note for the record that there is, none of the abutters attended the meeting. So surrounding properties, it would appear to be generally compatible even if the special use permit were granted, so. Anybody have anything else to contribute as far as the general deliberations and issues? Okay. Gail, could you prepare a motion? Which one? Yeah, with the application? Or this, what do you need?
For the motion?
Yeah.
I need the zoning board.
The what?
What do I need for the motion?
You just need to reference the application.
Okay.
Yeah, just reference the application and the relief, which is described in the application for for the ground-mounted solar. And then we can determine if members want to add the arborvitae, the planting. So it would be ZBR 2501,
Right.
special use permit,
You
and
know,
the
the
relief.
agenda
What's that? Yeah,
will be on the-
yeah, on the agenda. It'll just take a minute to write that up. Our secretary isn't here.
Yeah. No, this is the meeting minutes.
Oh, here's the agenda.
I had no way.
No, Benoit hasn't moved out, so.
Oh, did she? Okay.
You can just,
So everything is in the positive?
correct. Every motion is always made in the positive.
Motion is made to approve ZBR 25-01, the application for a special use permit by Izaxen Solar at the property located at 100 Mendon Road, North Smithfield, Rhode Island, 02896. The owner of the property is Jamin and Pariyanka S. Patel. This lot is AP003, Lot 292. The applicant is seeking a special use permit for ground-mounted solar voltaic systems as an accessory use to residential under district use regulations 5.4.9, 9 in parentheses. This lot is a pre-existing, non-conforming property in the RU zoning district and is under the 6.19.8.1 exemption for the Water Supply Protection Overlay District. We want to add the arborvitaes,
Well, I think you might want to check. I think it's 5.74.
5.74.
Let me just check. Yeah, it should, let's see. Yeah, that was the whole issue that I mentioned, that you go to the solar ordinance, just to get it right.
Oh, it says 5.7.4,
Yeah, so that's,
requirement for accessory use.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's really what we should technically
So we're going to just
reference,
change
yeah.
the district use regulations to 5.7.4.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Done.
And it's up to the members if they want to add a condition that, a line of plantings high enough to obstruct the highest point of the array be planted between the array and the line of sight of the closest abutting structure or residential structure. Then somebody can add that in if members feel the need to. Do we want to add it or not? Nobody?
I think they already said they were going to plant. I don't think we really have to tell them they have to, but
Yeah, well,
it
no,
all
I wanted to-
depends on, yeah, I mean, they said they were going to talk to their neighbors. And if, we had this problem before where they had a solar array and someone on the top of the hill could see it.
Mhm.
So if they could work with their neighbors,
Yeah, well, it's up to members.
It's
If
up
you
to
don't,
you
we
if you
don't need to
wanna-
put it in. If there's no support for it, then we won't. So do we have a motion to, do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. We don't need to reread it. It's essentially move to vote to approve as is. Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Najarian,
Yes.
Mr. Marcantonio, Ms. Burlinghoff,
yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Savini.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, good luck. Thank you.
Now, do they have like 1 month to wait? Like, do they still have to wait 1 month? I know that changed.
Oh, that's, yeah, whenever it's.
Oh,
filed.
okay.
Yeah. No, you can always proceed on your own risk.
Oh,
even if-
okay.
Even if, as soon as the decision is recorded, if you were building a house,
Yeah.
you want to start the foundation.
Oh,
it's at
okay.
your own risk. If somebody comes and appeals,
Oh, I got you.
then you have to stop, and if for some reason the appeal is significant,
Okay.
the permit issuance is overturned, then, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.